with a sword that big, he's got to be compensating for something. Welcome to the Daily Neitz, a daily look at classic films, modern cinema, and the world of professional wrestling. And today I'm talking about the 1954 Akira Kurosawa film, Seven Samurai. If you haven't heard of this film, shut up, yes you have, you just haven't realized it yet. This film is the basis for all modern action movies. And I'm not just talking about the Magnificent Seven, either the one from 1960 or the one that's coming out this year that I'm actually really excited about. Because those movies are American remakes of this one. But like everything, every action trope you can think of, every like crazy cool scene from an action movie, all these like even like the superhero movies that are coming out now, we wouldn't have these movies without Seven Samurai. We wouldn't have like a team up like the Avengers if it wasn't for these seven samurai getting together to protect this town. We wouldn't have like stuff like Lord of the Rings, the Battle of Helm's Deep. Like that just rings like it's a huge reminder of the climactic battles in Seven Samurai. Even stuff like Mad Max, that awesome scene from from Fury Road last year, where Max just goes off into the dark. You don't know what happens, and he just comes back with guns and ammo. That scene happens in Seven Samurai when one of the samurai just goes out into the woods and comes back later with a gun and says, 2 guys are dead. Like, you don't know what happened, you don't know how he did it, you don't want to know. That's the mystique of it, and that's what made that scene in Fury Road so cool, and that's one of the scenes that makes this movie so cool. And like, there's so many more examples, like 300. Them, I know that's also based on historical examples, but you know, having your smaller army protect a pinch point, that's what they do in Seven Samurai. This film is a story of a group of Japanese warriors. I forget what they're called and how many there are. It's a joke. They're called upon to protect this village of farmers. And they do it just for the food that they eat. They can't be paid. They're just hungry samurai. They're either a bit too old to really work, or too young to have experience, or just hungry or not really samurai. And these 7 guys band together and they get these farmers organized. They organize them to fight, which they've never had to do, and they organize them to protect themselves, and they prepare their village for this onslaught of 40 bandits. And in the end they succeed. They lose a handful of villagers and over half the samurai. But they succeed and they protect the farm for another year. And that's such it's a standard story now in action movies and in fantasy and all these movies, but at the time this was brand new and this was an incredible film. Even things like, I'm just thinking more like training montages that you get in all these movies. It's pretty much the middle of this movie is when they're training the farmers. Like, it's a training montage. It's all here. There are just 2 downsides, and they're not huge issues, but I understand them as barriers to entry. One of them is it's in Japanese in black and white. Now, in black and white movies, I don't have a problem with. I know some people do. I don't. Japanese is a little tougher, because the style of filmmaking in this area in Japan was not quite how we made movies in Hollywood and how we still make movies in Hollywood. Kurosawa was the closest. He made his movies very similarly to Hollywood, but not quite, so it's still like very distinctly Japanese, and part of that also means that I can't remember any of the guys' names off the top of my head. I had to have the Wikipedia article open while I was watching. It just has a list of the 7 samurai and some of the other major characters, just so I could keep the names in my head. That stuff. The other barrier to entry is this movie is 206 minutes long. That's 3.5 hours. Like, granted, yes, I watch a 3-hour wrestling show every week. But sitting down for a 3-hour movie is rough. And we thought the Lord of the Rings movies were long. Like, they don't get to the battle until I think 2.5 hours into this movie. The first hour is just the samurai getting together. And then the second hour is training the villagers, and the third hour is the sequence of, I think, 3, maybe 4 days of combat. That may seem daunting. It definitely felt daunting to me when I looked up the runtime this morning. It was like, oh, I better clear my schedule. But everything is, I feel, necessary. Like I said before with montages, all of the, like, that middle hour would have been cut down to, 10 minutes with some power ballad playing over the background as everyone's getting better from shot to shot. But it was really interesting to see, like, the techniques they use to train these villagers, and you don't really see the villagers get better, but you see them interacting with the samurai and getting to know them, because there is that class struggle too. The samurai are a higher class than the farmers are. It's actually a plot point as one of the samurai isn't really a samurai, he's a farmer. And that's another trope you see in all these movies. Like Luke Skywalker, he's not a Jedi, he's a moisture farmer. Even though that movie is heavily influenced by a different Kurosawa film, but that's, again, besides the point. But 3.5 hour runtime, still everything is important. Like a little scene at the beginning with this father being worried about his daughter and having samurai come to town. He doesn't want them to know he has a daughter. And that comes into play again and again and again throughout the movie. It's actually one of the samurai's main story arcs, the younger one, because he does fall in love with his daughter. And they do sleep together the night before the final stand, which, of course, the final stand happens in the rain. That's where this comes from. This is the movie where that trope comes from. But this is just one example of many. There are so many plot threads that run through. There's one farmer, I think Rikichi. His is the only name I remember because it sounds like Rikishi, the wrestler. I know. But every time his wife is brought up, he shuts up and leaves the room. And they don't quite figure it out until they go to burn down the bandit camp, and there's his wife. Like, it's all these little bits. Even the old man, he seemed to me like a throwaway character at first. Like, oh, it's just the elder, and they go to him, and he's not really part of the movie. But then, when the family goes to get him out, and all that remains is the child, and you find out that Kikichuya? The samurai that's not really a samurai. That's how you find that out. He's holding this baby, this freshly orphaned baby. He says, "This is who I was. This is how I came to be. This is why I don't know my name. This is why I'm not really a samurai. I had to fake my identity. This is what happened to me. This baby is me." Like, it all comes together. All the loose ends tie up so cleanly. Such a very well written story. Very clear. It's another problem I've had with Japanese films in the past is I don't quite know what's going on all the time. Every beat of this movie is clear, even down to at the end of every day of battle, there are 13 of them left. Like, you know exactly how much they've progressed, and it's clean and crisp. It's not brief, but everything is of importance. Wonderful story, wonderful film, looks gorgeous, cinematography is great, it feels like a modern action movie. And just all those tropes are there. Growing up watching action movies and then turning back to this, parts of it seem cliche, but you have to remember that they weren't cliche in 1954. Wonderful movie. It's a must-see for action movie fans. It's a should-see for movie fans in general. Highly recommend. Also, check out Magnificent Seven, the original one, because I really enjoy that movie as well. I loved it when I watched it last year, and I can't wait for the new one, as I've said. Probably won't be quite as good, but nothing ever really is anymore. That's all I gotta say about Seven Samurai. Fantastic movie. Good way to kill a whole afternoon, but great movie. Tomorrow, back to wrestling. Monday Night Raw. The fallout to AJ Styles turning heel on John Cena. That's tomorrow night. But until then, like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Comment for me other examples of scenes from this movie repeated later in action movies, because I'm sure I've missed a few. I didn't name all the ones I noticed. But put that in the comments. You can also tweet me at Daily Neitz. And until tomorrow, bye.